Hopefully everybody can see this. If you're joining online, can you admit people online as this? Because I put down that you have to have a code or whatever. I learned my lesson a few years ago at Woodbury with an unfortunate incident on Zoom bombing. So yeah, can you hit admit on all of these as people come in, and we'll be good to go. Yeah. Hi, online folks. Hopefully you can hear me when I go to the front. All right. We will go ahead and get started here. And I think, Mr. Jensen, if we can do a screen share on that, do share screen for the Zoom thing, we'll bring up some of the documents so people online can see those a little more easily than staring at the screen. My name is Tark Katzmeyer. I've met many of you. Some of you may either be orchestra families or parents that I have not met yet to this point. This is my second year at Stillwater Area High School, my 22nd year teaching. I'm excited to be here to present to you tonight the wonderful opportunity that our musicians have to travel down to Orlando, Florida, and to perform at Universal Studios in the Art of Sound and Foley workshop that they do down there. We're going to talk a little bit through the itinerary. We're going to talk through some other things that are related to the trip, in addition to how do you pay, what are the costs, what are the timelines, and then at the end, we'll also talk about people who may be interested in chaperoning as well, because we are going to need a decent amount of chaperones for this trip. If Orlando in March sounds appealing to you as a parent, then maybe you'd be willing to come along with us. With that, I think what we should do, Mr. Jensen, I'm going to make sure the sound system's on here. Can you? That is not the sound that we're expecting to take. Let's see if we can fix that. That's a lot better. Okay, we're gonna play just kind of the little like intro video they have about the educational experience that the Art of Sound and Foley workshop is. So here I can find it. Escape out of this. Screen sharing. Yeah. We need to do this. It's just like 2020 all over again. Your screen sharing is paused. Okay, well, let's see, admit. We'll go new share, desktop. There we go. That should do it. And now we're going to go here. And we're going to go here. Okay. So this is a little video that's going to tell you a little bit about what this is all about.
Design, music, and the Foley at Universal Orlando Resort. What an incredibly unique experience for our students. They're expanding their concepts of ensemble, they're expanding their concepts of professionalism, and they're finishing with a summative assessment, a finished product, allowing them to evaluate what they've put together, as well as our parents, family, friends, and administrators. They're not going to believe that we're teaching this in our music classrooms. Your students are going to gain a brand new insight into literacy and creativity. They're going to be reading a film score and recording it, but they're going to be creating their own sound design effects. That creates an opportunity for them to be able to achieve and to display the #1 characteristic that Fortune 500 companies are looking for in the employees of tomorrow. The sound design workshop is going to expose your students to a plethora of careers they might not know exist. Audio engineers, video engineers, conductors, composers, directors, producers. This opens up an entire world of opportunity for your students and their future success. You know, a very wise and experienced teacher once told me, Robert, remember, be on the lookout for Mozart in your classroom. There's a Mozart sitting there in your music classroom. What are you going to do to bring out their best and bring their incredible musical talents to the world?
And I've got one more video to share with you that kind of relates to that same concept, or that same, this is a little more from the student perspective.
education, we spend our time working on musical skills and concepts. The workshop at Universal Studios allows our students to come in, record a professional soundtrack with a professional production crew.
Well, when we first decided that we were going to go to Universal Studios, we were looking for something just like this, so they could have a bit of a real life experience and see how music is put together for the movies.
My favorite part was when they actually kind of stopped playing their instruments. I don't think that they were expecting that. My favorite part was the voiceovers, like making all the little noises here and there. Not just music, there was clapping and vocal sounds and a lot of things they get to do differently. And then actually, two of my boys were soloists on the movie, which I think is gonna be a great experience for the home and school parents.
It looks like Miss Newmiller.
The producer was really awesome. I thought the producer was fantastic.
It was funny. It was cool. It was more of a down to earth guy.
He had a lot of fun with him. We had a lot of fun with him. The producer was a great influence on the kids. He had a lot of enthusiasm. He drew the kids into the experience, and so everybody had a great time.
You know, your students are gonna love this experience, but it is the extension of that experience that allows you to truly show them the parameters and the ranges and the horizons that are available to them through music.
I kind of want to go into something like this. It was very interesting. It was a lot of fun.
I would say, go do it. This workshop is really something that your students are not going to experience in your classroom.
I promise you, there's gonna be giggles and laughs and opportunities for them to not just remember for the school year, but remember for a lifetime.
So that is certainly the centerpiece of what we're going to be doing on this trip, is being a part of that workshop and kind of all the aspects of that workshop, not just learning the music and playing it for an actual part of a Universal Studios animated presentation, but doing the music and doing the voices for the characters, doing the Foley, if you know what Foley is, the sounds that kind of go into making a movie beyond just the music and stuff like that. And then getting an opportunity to watch them actually use Logic, which is a program on the computer, to mix and sound engineer the whole thing together. And then the students as a product at the end of it will get to keep an MP4 video of the actual recording that they did with the voices from students in our ensemble that do the characters and the Foley that they did as part of the experience as well. So it's really a pretty cool experience. Talking through the trip itself, the plan is right now that we would leave on the 6th of March, which is a Thursday. Students would miss school on Friday, they would miss school on the Monday after. We're going to travel from the 6th through the 10th of March. The plan would be on the 6th to fly into Orlando, and I believe our plan is to, as soon as we get in, check into our hotel and head to a park for that night. We're staying, the plan is to stay at a hotel property that's on Universal property, so we should be able to walk to the park from where we're staying, which is going to be really nice. Then we would have the opportunity to kind of take full advantage of the park on that night. The 7th, we're going to travel by bus over to Cocoa Beach. We're going to spend some time at Ron John's Surf Shop, spend some time at the beach. And we're also lining up right now a performance with a local high school over there. So we should get an opportunity to do kind of a meet and greet and perform for another school that's down in that area. I did spend 8 years teaching in Florida, so I have some connections down there. I know some people that that will be great to get together with, and we'll have a great musical experience with them. So then that night we'll come back to Orlando. We'll spend the night in Orlando. On Saturday, the day after, the 8th, would be when we do the experience that you just saw on the video. And then after we do the experience, kids would have the rest of the day at the parks that day. Sunday is going to be a complete full day at the parks. And there are now 3 Universal parks, so students will have a park hopper pass. They'll be able to go through any of the 3 parks they want to. They can even go between them during the same day if they want to. I know you can like ride the Hogwarts express from like one of the parks to the other or whatever, and things like that. So students will be able to go back and forth between those locations and have that experience as well. And then Monday will be the day that we pack up our hotel rooms, get on the bus, head to the airport, fly back, and hopefully get back at a reasonable hour. Flights have not been determined yet, and part of what goes into that, many of you who are veterans of band trips know this already, but we have to try and balance finding the lowest price of a flight, and oftentimes airlines, you would think like flying 100 kids to a destination would make tickets cheaper, but it oftentimes doesn't, because they don't like booking large blocks of one flight like that, because it limits their ability to jack up the price later on and stuff like that for last minute tickets. So it ends up, they charge us kind of what they would charge you to like fly a week before the trip or whatever, because they know they could get that money if they didn't commit those seats. So we're trying to shop around to find out who's going to give us the best guaranteed rate right then. So that's going to be something that the price you're going to see up here is like hopefully high end of what we would have to pay, and then it may come down from there, depending. Another thing we look for in choosing flights is what airline is going to be friendly to us for our instruments and equipment we have to transport. There's oftentimes hidden costs in flying, in terms of like some airlines you have to pay for a carry-on, you know, and we don't want to throw that back at you as parent, like, oh, the flight's cheaper, but you have to pay for a carry-on or something like that. We're going to try and find a thing that balances all those factors out, and Gateway is going to help us with that. They are our tour company for this. I put a QR code up at the beginning of the meeting that had a documents folder. Did everybody get a chance to scan that? Maybe Ryan, can you get that back up? It should be in the folder, I think. It should be one of the presentation things there. Or it's not.
Oh,
Yay,
that's the wrong one.
I'm sorry. It's the other one. There's two of them that look like that on the desktop.
Okay.
Yeah, it's over on there. It is. Yeah.
Got it.
So this QR code can give you access to the document. I'm not going to talk through tour behavior and packing guidelines, because we'll do another meeting like this closer to March where we'll really get specific with that. But I know there's oftentimes parents, especially parents of like sophomores, who maybe their kid has never gone on a trip like this before, away from home and stuff like that, that would want to know what our expectations are. I want you to know that this will be about the 16th band trip that I've done in my career. So I'm certainly not a rookie to this sort of thing. Neither is Mr. Jensen. And by the way, Mr. Jensen, Orchestra Director at Stillwater High School, who will
Hi,
also be
everybody.
traveling with us. You'll hear from him in a little bit too. But we both are veterans of traveling. We have high expectations, both performance-wise, but also behavior-wise, of kids on the trip. And those guidelines are pretty specific. For those of you who had students go to Washington, D.C. next year, you know that we've got a pretty trustworthy group of kids. However, we do try and be very clear about what the expectations are on the trip. So, like I said, I'm not going to talk through that tonight, but you're welcome to read through it. I did put it in the folder if you want to see what the behavior expectations are. I don't think anything in there is unreasonable. I don't think anything in there is something that's going to prevent a student from having fun. But I think it is all designed to keep students safe and to keep us in an environment where we are having fun, because we're being safe and we're focusing on excellence and performance in that way. So with that being said, what we're going to do is we're going to bring up the document that talks about what's included in the trip, what's not included in the trip, what the payment schedule is, and how you pay. And the way you pay is going to be different for those of you that travel to Washington, D.C. with us. And I would imagine maybe the last orchestra tour as well. We are not going to pay on e-track pay. We're going to pay through a different system this year, and we'll talk about that. I'm going to let Del Lyron talk about that a little bit too. Del, do you want to come up to the front?
Sure, that's fine.
Yeah, this is Del Lyron. He's a representative from Gateway Tours. Thank you for being here, Del.
Hello, everyone.
And he's going to talk to you a little bit about the payment process of MyGateway. I can bring up the documents while you're
That's
talking.
probably
about
the easiest way.
inclusions, non-inclusions, and also maybe trip insurance a little
Exactly,
bit.
yes.
Okay, cool.
I've worked for Gateway for 7 years. I taught at Hastings High School for 32 years prior to that, and used Gateway for most of my tours during that time. The latter part of my teaching, they started this MyGateway registration, and this handout that is up there, it's, well, right there, the bottom one.
Oh, the MyGateway one?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, sounds good. There we go.
So it's really easy to read, and so it's just step by step, see the bullet points, how to register. So you'll the website, and then it requires you to enter a passphrase, which is right there, it's fairly. Okay, but that is very specific to your tour. And then you'll create a user account, and a parent or student, you have to be 18 or over to register. So we prefer that parents do it, primarily because you're flying, and we need actual legal names for ticketing. And then also it gives an opportunity for a lot of information gathering. So if there's any food allergies, those kind of things, we need to know that as well. So we kind of make sure that everyone, if we have group meals, most of these are meal coupons. So everyone can kind of choose what they want. But if there's ever an opportunity, and like on the plane, for instance, if there's food provided, we want to make sure you're gluten-free, there's an opportunity for you there as well. And then once you get registered, then it'll go down to start your payment schedule. And then students, we place in quad occupancy. And by the way, I've stayed at Cabana Bay, which is the hotel that you're staying on property. It's really convenient, very walkable to the Universal Parks. It's a really, has anyone stayed there? It's a kind of a retro hotel. The rooms are really, really spacious. And then there's a large food area down in the lower level where you can use your Universal meal card for breakfast. And if you want to come back for lunch or dinner, that's well. We've got beautiful pools and everything. So if you just want a little break from the parks, you can come and enjoy that as well. Nevertheless, then you'll select ensemble choice. Band, orchestra are both ensembles, and then it'll just walk you through it step by step on the way there. So I talked about some of it, and then the payment is the thing that everyone wants to talk about. We have two different ways you can pay. Either you can send Gateway a check, or you can use a credit card. Most people choose that. However, there is a PayPal fee that goes along with that because we don't store credit information for your security. But if you're trying to earn points on a credit card, it's a great way to do that. And there's two different payment methods. And then Gateway also sends out payment notices so that you don't have to write it on a calendar or anything. We will send out a payment notice, but they're all spelled out exactly. So the total package price is $19.45. And again, this is probably the high end of it. And once we get enough people registered, then we can start securing airfare. And then that'll give us a better idea of that cost. Because a good chunk of it is just trying to get to Orlando. And then it's broken up into 5 different payments. First being due on the 22nd of this month. And they're pretty much $389 until our last payment is due on January 24th of next year. Okay, any questions on that? Again, once you get into the website, it just really walks you step by step through it. And if you have any questions during the business day, you can certainly call Gateway. There's a number on there, and they can, if you're having some issues, they can help you with that.
Dell, if I may talk to that for just a second. A couple of things to know about the MyGateway system with this. You are going to get a notification if you sign up for the trip and don't make a payment on those dates up there. That doesn't mean we're going to kick you off the trip immediately. There is some flex with that. Just know that if there's a payday issue or if your car breaks down and you need a couple extra weeks or whatever, we can flex and do that for sure. You just need to communicate with either me or Mr. Jensen that's what's going on. So please make sure that there's communication along those lines. And we can certainly kind of do that. We'll get a notification too every time a student is late on a payment or a family is late on a payment. So just make sure that you know that that notification is automatically generated. We're not like threatening you. It's just a notification kind of for our courtesy and for your courtesy with that as well.
Like my dentist appointment's coming up, it'll say, hey, your payment is due, and then I hit click and I go right to it.
Do you know the answer to that, Dell?
No.
Okay, I'll try and do that from my end of things. Maybe, yeah.
Say yes.
Yeah, I do know the answer to your question.
Yeah.
So it isn't, you'll just get a notice, but you have to sign on to MyGateway
Okay.
to make the payment. If you're going to pay with credit card, otherwise write a check and mail it. And of course, if you're paying by check, there's always a lag time. Once you write the check, after you get the notice, by the time it gets to Gateway, and then by the time it's credited to the student account.
And we're going to talk about fundraising in a little bit here, but just know that when we fundraise, the way that's going to work is we'll put that into our internal account, any money that's fundraised here at Stillwater. We'll send a check for the full amount fundraised, but we'll send a spreadsheet with it that tells Dell or whoever gets the check, like $500 of that should go to Katie and $200 of that should go to Ava, and so on and so forth. Like we break it down, you'll just see it appear in your account, but it sometimes takes, 3 weeks, 4 weeks for that to happen. So just know with fundraising money, it's going to take some time, but it will show up in your account. And that's where we say, if you raised fundraising money, we sent it in, you get one of those nasty emails from the system that says you're late on your payment, but you raised $400. Don't panic. It'll get there eventually. It'll take a week or two, but it will get there, and we'll do that. So,
And the payment reminders they're friendly. They're just remember, you have a payment due, you're overdue on this payment. And if I've sold the tour, then I get a list of everyone that still owes for as well. And I also get the notice.
Yeah.
So again, we're really forgiving with that. And we always talk to the directors. It's like, hey, can you just contact the student or parent? It's like, is there something going on? How can we be of financial assistance?
the only thing we're really drop dead about is like when Wheels Up on the Plane happens, you have to be paid in full. But other than that, we can flex with the rest of it. So
Good question.
I was just curious about that.
Two queen beds, yes.
The sharing of that with someone.
Yes,
And was the triple, is that like a queen bed that?
they're all going to be 2 beds with 2 queens in them.
Oh.
Yes. So then one person, if it's a forced triple, we call it, just because the numbers don't work out right. Some lucky person gets a bed by themselves.
perfect. Do we want to talk about cancellation?
Yes, so that's all spelled out there as far as, there's no penalty, 120 days. So November 6th is kind of the drop dead. But we do have, because we're kind of getting started late on this, that very first payment, I think it says that on the first page of this. $60 of the first payment is non-refundable on receipt. It's kind of like what we normally do, like a deposit, and then 4 or 5 payments after that. But because it's more the end of September and we're starting to make payments and having to pay vendors, we at least need $60 in-house to start securing, and it'll primarily be for airfare.
Yeah.
Because we need to grab that as soon as possible, because just, you probably know, we're not the only ones going to Orlando in March.
Okay.
There's always questions about trip insurance. Now, there are many companies that offer trip insurance. We have vetted TripMate as we feel it has the best cancel for any reason insurance. So if you scroll down a
Sure.
little bit, yeah. So that's all this code things, but so you would be looking at the 1501 to 2000. So there is just the normal insurance, which is $64 in the insurance that we have vetted, or 101 for cancel for any reason.
And cancel for any reason could be valuable if you got really sick before the trip. If, some kind of silly thing happened, like you had a family event happen that you need to miss. That's the difference between like cancel. The other one requires pretty much like a confirmable act of God, I think, or something like that.
Yeah, or death in a
yeah.
family is.
Yeah. Is it? Okay.
In the basic one. But often this is, you like say someone has signed up for the tour and then they realize their team is going to a state tournament or something like that. But it's 48 hours ahead for that. So there is still some restrictions on that. But if insurance is important to you, I would spend the extra $40 for the cancel for any reason. Which is the second one.
I used to tell students and families to not get trip insurance prior to 2020. And now at this point, I will never say that again. I used to be like, I've never needed it. And I hadn't until that point. But then I had a tour lined up for 2020 and it got canceled and we had a lot of problems with that. So, it's something to consider. It's something to consider in that sense.
The one thing you need to know, so some of you say, I definitely want to go on the tour. I'm just going to sort of have to worry about payment reminders. I'm not planning on doing any fundraising or anything. I'm just going to pay the entire trip amount. If you are planning to get trip insurance, you have to do that before you make the final payment. So be careful with that. And I would caution you not to pay the full amount anyway, because who knows, some fundraising opportunity may come up. There might be a gift from someone in your family that you want to use toward that. I mean, you can pay up to everything for the last $400. But once you make that final payment, you can no longer get trip insurance. Does that make sense? That's not our rule. It's most all insurance companies actually.
So during the payment process, when does that become an option to check? Because there was a thing there to send a check too.
Yes, so you can do that at any time prior to your final payment.
But if there's a 60 days, it's gotta be paid for 60 days before the trip takes off. Right?
Yes.
So we need that done by January.
Yes.
Yeah, beginning of January. So just if you think of New Year's as kind of the end date for that.
But as we're paying for all of these, when we put this payment plan together, do we indicate that we want this added, or is this an additional thing we have to?
When you buy the insurance, you'll click on a link and it takes you to TripMate, a separate website, because we don't offer it. We're not an insurance company.
But it gives you an option to go to it from MyGateway. Yeah.
But as you know, like Allianz is a big insurance company that offers trip insurance, so there are other options. But this just doesn't make you go through all the fine print to kind of figure out what is covered and what isn't. So we've done that for you.
Cool. Does anybody have any questions for Dell? You must have done a really good job.
Oh,
Yeah. Okay, cool.
I will stick around here if you have any questions that you're just not comfortable talking in front of a group. You can ask me anything.
Do you want to talk about potential instrument rentals or how we're going to handle that?
So right now, built into the cost for us, we do have cello and bass rentals built into the cost of the trip. Just to make life a little bit easier. The cost of the trip may potentially come down if we do find a volunteer that is willing to drive to Orlando. You laugh, but it's happened every year. And we do have like the downside to renting instruments out there is our instruments are better. And so it's just the nature of it. We get grants every year for our instruments, and they're just very nice instruments. So having them down there's a nice thing. But I can't guarantee that that's going to happen. It's just a professional.
And tubas, tenor saxes, bari saxes, stuff like that on the band end of things that would also apply to our two performance opportunities, which I'm going to talk about the other one in just a second, but our two performance opportunities are both going to have large percussion at them, so we're not going to have to worry about renting percussion this year, which will be good. We're going to be performing at a high school and at the sound stage that's specifically set up for this experience at Universal Studios, which has all the large percussion, so we don't have to haul percussion equipment this year. But we will probably we'll either have to pay overages on the airlines for tubas, or if we do find somebody to drive to Orlando, throw it on the same trailer as the basses and the cellos and stuff like that. So,
Yeah.
okay. Talking about, and do you have anything else? Or?
No.
Okay. Talking about the last couple of things, because I know I told you that we probably wrap this up within 40 minutes or so. We're getting to the half an hour point, so I'll try and kind of bring it home on that. But the soundstage thing is going to be the marquee part of the whole thing, but we're also going to perform with another high school. And kind of the spirit of that adventure is going to be that we get a chance just to share the joy of music with other peers our age. And similar to the MSHSL experience here in Minnesota, or the festival experience, we'll get a chance to share hopefully music with them in a way that we'll get feedback from other students, other directors, but we'll also get to just kind of like collaborate and share in the joy of hearing what they're doing, them hearing what we're doing and stuff like that too, which is, I think, another unique experience of traveling with that. Talking about two more things before we wrap up this meeting. Number one is parent chaperones. I am going to set up a Google form tomorrow morning. I was, for those of you that are my students, you know, I was out this morning. I'm going through Whole30, which if anybody knows what that's all about, my stomach wasn't handling it real well this morning, but I'm at the very beginning stages of it, so I think I'm going to survive. But I was going through that, so I feel a lot better tonight, but I'm back here. But I'm going to put together a Google form. I meant to have it together for this meeting. I'll have it for tomorrow. I'll send it out via email. If you're a parent that's interested in chaperoning, there's going to be a spot to indicate that on that Google form. What we asked from parents who chaperone, you're going to get a 2-person room. That's what we're going to do. we're going to charge you 75% of the cost of a two-person is what we're gonna charge you for that. So if you want to chaperone, we will give you a discount, a 25% discount off the two-person room price, not the four-person room price. So it is gonna be a little more than 75% of that four-person room price, if that makes sense. But it'll be somewhere kind of in between with that. So just know that that's an option that's out there. If Orlando in March sounds good to you, that's an option that you can certainly do. We had a lot of fun, I think, last year with the chaperones that went to Washington, DC. We'll have fun again this year, I'm sure. There's lots of great restaurants and things to do as adults to do around Universal. So we'll get a chance to hang out and kind of enjoy that experience as well. The second thing I want to talk about is fundraising. The other thing that I'm going to have on the Google form that I send out tomorrow, we already have a few things lined up for fundraisers this year, but I would like to kind of crowdsource some ideas for fundraising you would like to see. And if you're a parent that has either an idea or a way to actually help with fundraising, I know we had some parents volunteer to be like the person who supervises grocery bagging at Cub Foods. And we took all the proceeds that were collected and divided it evenly amongst the students that helped bag groceries on that day. And that would basically just be being the adult that sits there and makes sure they're being polite, behaving themselves when they're bagging groceries. You wouldn't even have to do the grocery bagging. Or if you like have the ability to go to like Texas Roadhouse in Woodbury and set up a like dining night where if you go eat at Texas Roadhouse, 30% of it goes to the band and orchestra trip or something like that. If you're a parent that has a connection with that, you can indicate that on that Google form. We would love to have fundraising ideas. And like I said, the way fundraising is going to work is we'll get the check from whatever organization we fundraise with. It'll go into our internal account. We'll turn around, send Dell a spreadsheet that says it should go to these students, whoever raised money for that particular night. How much should go to each student, depending on like if somebody grocery bagged for 3 hours versus 1 hour or something like that, you know, we'll kind of divide it out that way. And we'll send that fundraising money in. We're also going to do Snap Raise again. For those of you that might remember back in November and December, we did Snap Raise. That's an opportunity where you can put something on Facebook or Instagram or any kind of social media post where people who may not be, this is not the place to go ask grandma and grandpa for like money to help with the trip. That would just be a, hey, grandma and grandpa, can you help with a gift to help us on the trip? Because then you don't get the 20% hit on it that Snap Raise gives. But it might be, hey, my, you know, sorority sister from college has always mentioned that they'd like to help, and they saw my post on Facebook, and they're going to chip in, you know, whatever towards my kid. You know, I've got a group of buddies that I play cards with, or whatever. You know, if I were in a situation like that for my son or daughter, I'd send it to them because they're not the type of people that I'm going to go, hey, can you donate towards the trip? But if they see it on an official Snap Raise thing with like a nice video and a flyer and stuff like that, they might be willing to chip in a little bit there. So we are going to do that again, and we'll also have the Angel Fund QR code at our December concert, which is going to be an opportunity for if your child is set, but you would be willing to help a family that maybe has a senior that wouldn't be able to go on the trip otherwise if they didn't get some help from the community. We're going to have an opportunity to donate towards that as well, which is kind of a nice thing to do, particularly that time of year, and donations to Snap Raise are tax deductible, which can be helpful that time of year as well. So, something to know with all of that. So, does anybody have any questions for Mr. Jensen or I?
Parents had a question?
Yeah.
Is there a trailer provided for driving instruments there?
I think so. Like we could probably rent something to take the instruments down there, like a U-Haul or a trailer or something. That'd be a lot cheaper than baggage fees, I would think.
Yep.
Yeah, we would be willing to provide a trailer.
Okay.
Yeah. The district might have one too.
Yeah. We got one this last week. We can take one.
Brent's has one at East Ridge. Yeah. So, yes, we would be able to do that, Matthew. Any other questions?
So when it comes to fundraising, let's say we decide that we're able to pay the whole fee right up front. And then our child fundraises $500. Does somebody cut me back a check for that $500, or does that go to somebody else who?
We cannot do that from our end. I don't know if Gateway's able to do that, but
We can do that from our end.
Yeah.
It's complicated because then we end up essentially writing you a check back.
Mhm.
But if you want to designate those funds to a specific student, that's easy to do. So when that spreadsheet is set in with all the names of the students, you would just take out the name of your son or daughter, put in the one, and then their account will be credited $500 or whatever it is. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But if anyone overpays, we reimburse that.
It's, we can do it, but it's virtually impossible from our internal account to write a check to an individual. So, yeah, just, yeah.
And that's why I caution you paying the entire amount right away. Because again, if we can get a really good airline rate, the cost is gonna be less.
Yeah. Any other questions? These are great questions.
Is that, experience, is that orchestra and band together? Or
Yeah, that will be combined. Yeah, so we're gonna put everybody together for that one. I think if we perform at a high school, we'll probably do separate, other than maybe some full orchestra pieces, maybe. But the universal thing will certainly be a combined experience, which will be awesome. It'll be great. Yeah.
What is the student chaperone ratio?
I typically strive to have 10-to-1 at the very least. Sometimes if we get enough volunteers, we can have better than that. Something to know for chaperones as well, you do need to have passed a district specific background check, the chaperone. And that is something we check diligently before the trip. So if you want to chaperone, please know that you are going to be subject to a district background check with that. Other questions? How do roommates work? You choose them. Yeah, so like at some point, probably in like January or December or something, we'll have a day where you can, the orchestra and band kids that are traveling will get together during class. And we can just say, hey, everybody get in a group of 4 and we're gonna register who wants to stay together. So you'll get to choose your roommates. Yeah.
So the price that we're budgeting for and paying Gateway covers flight, lodging, park passes, but we should also plan on what, like pocket money, food?
Food for on the flight and on the flight back, and also at Cocoa Beach. But we're gonna get meal vouchers for all the meals at the parks. So we'll get like a breakfast, lunch, and dinner meal voucher. It's gonna be a gift card to Universal Studios. And the kids can go to any food experience within Universal property, including our hotel, and purchase their food with that.
They're $15 each. So if you've been to either Disney or Universal, you know, $15 doesn't go.
Buys your soul.
That-
Oh, yeah, that's right, yeah.
You have to be very selective, but yeah.
So they want to
no
buy
one's
a
gonna go
Harry Potter
hungry.
under on this.
Right, yeah. So they will need to bring, if they want souvenirs, if they wanna eat well, not extravagantly, if they wanna eat, you know, more than $15 a meal at a theme park, they're gonna need to bring a little extra money, but yeah. I mean, we will, there is an inclusion for food, so no one should go hungry. Well, we're other questions?
So the kids can be at the park then, and if say Sunday all day, then as a certain curfew when they have to be back, or is there any times when they check in?
What we do, the system I've used, and I've done this exact trip with another school before, the system that I typically use is the students are assigned a direct chaperone that they're in touch with via Remind 101 on the text thread. And the students don't have to be with that chaperone the whole day. That's not really a high school thing, you know? But they do have that chaperone to get in touch with if they feel sick, if they need to take a break, if they need to go back to the hotel room, if they need to go to Walgreens to get something, you know, to soothe the stomach or something like that. The chaperone can be the person that takes them to do that. But basically what I'm gonna do, our system is the system of 3, as long as students are in a group of 3 or more. And I'm very strict about that. If I see students that are not in a group of 3 or more, they get to be my shadow the rest of the day. But, which is not fun for a high school kid at Universal Studios. But, the system is 3 or more, and if they travel in 3 or more, 9 AM, have fun at the park. Our check-in is 9 PM at this spot. See you there. It's gonna be what it is on that Sunday at least, if we're not performing that day. So the kids get quite a bit of freedom, as long as they stay within the park, stay in a group of 3, and are in touch with their chaperone. And what we've done, I know some chaperones have done like at 2 PM, I want everybody to send me a text and just tell me if they're okay, you know, or something like that, just a wellness check at a certain point in time during the day. But I haven't really had too many problems or really any problems with that system, other than maybe a kid that needs to go to first aid and they reach out to the chaplain and we take it down there to get an ice pack or a Band-Aid or something like that, so. Any other questions? Okay, well, thank you for your time, everybody. If you have other questions, please feel free to email Mr. Jensen or I. Gateway is also available if you want to email Dell with any questions.